Hello everyone, what about look to the abandoned mansion of Al Capone? Good, it was now under renovation. Alfonso Gabriel Capone, sometimes known by the nickname Scarface, was an American gangster and businessman who attained notoriety during the Prohibition era as the co-founder and boss of the Chicago outfit. His 7-year reign as a crime boss ended when he went to prison at the age of 33. So very early, he was imprisoned at the age of 33. Al Capone was born January 17, 1899 at Brooklyn, New York, United States. He died January 25, 1947 at Miami Beach, Florida, United States. They have children Albert Francis Capone with siblings Frank Capone, Ralph Capone, Richard, James Hart, and Umberto Capone, Macho Capone. He had a spouse, May Capone, 1918 to 1947. My friend, in the roaring 20s, Al Capone rolled an empire of crime in the Windy City, gambling, prostitution, bootlegging and bribery, narcotics trafficking, robbery, protection rackets, and murder, and it seems that law enforcement couldn't touch him. And some people are asking why he was called Scarface. In a youthful scrape at the Harvard Inn, a young hoodlum named Frank Galuccio slashed Capone with a knife or razor across his left cheek. After Capone made a crude comment to Galuccio's sister, prompting the later nickname Scarface, Capone later shot the winner of the neighborhood Raps game to death as he robbed him. So talagang magaling pala tong dakilang magnanakaw, hold upper, lahat na ng panggagansyo. Napakagaling pala nitong si Capone. When Capone was caught and put at the Alcatraz in the late August of 1934, took on a more humbling name, Prisoner 85. As Prisoner 85, Al Capone led a very different life from the freewheeling days at the top of the Chicago racket. He became a few years later a musician and a composer. You might be asking why Alfonso Gabriel Capone or Al Capone was caught by the government because of so many offenses. Criminal penalty 11 years imprisonment in 1931, conviction for tax evasion, 5 counts, known for boss of the Chicago outfit, St. Valentine Day Massacre, and his resting place can be found in Mount Carmel Cemetery, hillside of Illinois. In Chicago, she was the Chicago's most infamous Prohibition-era crime boss. Al Capone is best known for his violence and ruthlessness in his elimination of his rivals. The most notorious of the bloody things in the St. Valentine Day Massacre, in which 7 members of Bugs Moran gang were machine gunned in a garage on Chicago north side of February 14, 1929. And Al Capone died on a cardiac arrest in 1947, but his decline began earlier. After his transfer to Alcatraz prison, his mental and physical condition deteriorated from paresis, a late stage of syphilis. He was released in November 1939 and was sent to a Baltimore mental hospital before he retired to his Florida estate. So what happened to his mansion? This mansion of Al Capone was very beautiful, very stunning. So gorgeous. The design, the decoration of the walls, of the ceiling are very beautiful, very stunning. And God, instead of destroying this mansion, now they are under renovation. I think they're going to make it as a hotel. See, my friends, it's so beautiful, and I love the architects, the design. Al Capone, he had an old Chicago home for sale with hints of a secret tunnel. On February 13, 2019, see the 2-flat house where the famed Chicago gangster Al Capone lived with his wife and mother in the 1920s. It's for sale in a park. In 1928, 29 year, 1928. Yeah, in 1928, a 29-year-old Capone paid $40,000 for the house, which served at time as a sunny refuge from the bitter Chicago winters. The gangsters was convicted of tax evasion 3 years later and served 7.5 years in federal prison on October 13. And Al Capone's mansion, the gangster Al Capone final residence is in Miami Beach, a 100-year-old waterfront house with a large pool zone will be completely demolished unless a last-minute flip from preservation to save it, caused the property owner to post November 11. And this is the house of Al Capone in Miami Beach. It was supposed to be demolished, but now it's under renovation. So Al Capone had mini mansion. He also had a 6.077 square foot home with 4 bedrooms and pool, and has been through several changes in ownership over the years. It is currently owned by Todd Michael Glaser, the South Florida developer who recently purchased and then demolished Jeffrey Epstein Palm Beach mansion. So napakarami po talaga ng kanyang mga naging mansyon. Ito pala ay isang dakilang na magnanakaw talaga at napakagaling niya. Sumikat sa subalit maaga siyang nawala sa daigdig. Siya ay namatay sa pagkatapos niya makulong ng mahabang panahon sa Alcatraz dahil sa tax evasion. At ngayon nga po, this April 13, 2019, the Red Brick 2 flat in Chicago Southside Park Manor neighborhood that legendary mobster Capone was once live is sold. Tingnan nyo naman mga kaibigan, napakalaki nitong mansion. How many bedrooms? I think this worth $16 million. Napakalawak, napakalaki, at ito nga po ay under renovation na. Sa halip na gibain nila, mukhang gagawin isang parang hotel. Kaya kasalukuyan at present they are preserving this, they are under renovation. Napakaganda po nitong bahay niya. The Miami Beach mansion of gangster Al Capone traded hands for $15.5 million just last week, just weeks after it was purchased by developers for $10.75 million and set to be demolished. So Al Capone Miami Beach mansion was saved from demolition. So this is the Al Capone mansion in Miami Beach in Chicago na muntik na sana mag-iba. So this Miami Beach mansion of Al Capone in Chicago was a 6.077 square foot home with 4 bedrooms and a pool, and has been through several changes in ownership of the years. It is currently owned by Todd Michael Glaser, the South Florida developer who recently purchased and then demolished this Jeffrey Epstein Palm Beach mansion. This Miami Beach mansion is also where Al Capone lived after his release from Alcatraz. A decade later, his brain riddled by late stage of syphilis, and where he died in 1947. The house listed for sale for $8.45 million in early 2014. It's not open to the public, but you can check out the latest real estate photos of it here. So nabaliw pala to, nagkaroon siya ng sakit na syphilis, at yun nga, dinala sa isang mental hospital. So mabuti na lamang po at hindi ito na-demolish. This Al Capone historic Miami home has been saved from demolition after it traded hands for $15.5 million. The Miami home where Al Capone took his final breath in 1947 after suffering a heart attack is being saved from demolition after his spirited campaign by locals was launched to preserve the estate. This property was traded hands for a whopping of $15.5 million. Record show on September 24. The sale comes only weeks after it was purchased by developer Todd Michael Glaser and his business partner Nelson Gonzalez in August for $10.75 million. At the time, Glazer told the Wall Street Journal of his plans to tear down the 7.5 square foot Palm Islands residence in favor of a modern build. And despite Capone's nefarious reputation and criminal history on an online petition with over 25,000 signatures was started to stop the development. And alam niyo po ba ang asawa na si May Capone was a very strong woman who lived in the shadow of notorious gangster as Al Capone's wife. Her life was very tumultuous when she got involved with the mafia. She was a young woman and everything soaked on from there. Instead of having an everyday married life with her husband, she was soon left alone as Al Capone was imprisoned and sent to Alcatraz. May visited him wherever this was possible in the company of the family's friends and bodyguards. And she had a son with Al Capone, later nicknamed Sonny. Sadly, the child was born with syphilis contracted by his father when Al Capone's life ended. May moved on with her life, changing her name in order to stop living in the shadow of the mafia. May Capone was a caring woman and a loving mother who always stood with her children. So napakahirap din pala ng naging buhay niya kahit mayaman sila. Even though they had a lot of wealth and everything. May Capone, born as May Coughlin, was also known as Josephine by a friend and family. She had a total of 4 sisters and 2 brothers. Her sisters were named Mariel and Agnes, both married later on and had a couple of children. However, the husband they chose very much more ordinary than the ones May married. May was famous for being married to Alphonse Capone, a notorious gangster whose name we all know, yet in shorter form. She was a strong woman who stood by her husband in good or ill, in sickness and in health. Later, she was born to Michael Collin and Bridget German Brooklyn in Brooklyn, New York on April 11, 1897. Her parents were Irish immigrants. May's father worked as a laborer and her mother was a housekeeper. While some knew her as a Josephine, she preferred being called May. In her early childhood, she attended school under the watchful eye of her parents who did their best to provide what they could. She and her siblings attended public education for as long as they could get by. However, May left in which she was 16. Exchanging for work, she was hired and as a salesperson and supported herself and her family by working. When May Capone met her future husband, she was a young woman of 21. And while many people came under the media limelight when they have acquaintance with celebrities, many of them don't want that limelight on them. One such May Capone, she caught public attention due to her marriage with the notorious gangster Al Capone. In her early life, May was an ordinary woman living simply. However, her connection to the businessman and gangster known as Scarface brought her under the media radar. May married Al Capone in 1918 on December 30. They exchanged vows at the St. Mary's Star at the Sea Church. Some sources say that either the couple met at Carroll Gardens at a party of Al Capone's mother arranged the wedding. Neither of the notorious had been confirmed. Capone's mother knew May from the church. Al was younger than May by just 2 years. However, on the marriage certificate, they were both written in as 20. Despite the hostility between the Irish-American and Italian-American groups, no one really opposed their wedding. Al Capone's parents favored the union because of having someone of his Irish origin with them could help smoothen out the relation with the opposing gang. And Capone was educated as a young woman at the time. She was much more middle class and Catholic than her husband, while Al Capone gave up school at the age of 14 and spent time in the jug section of his town. May was a model Catholic throughout her life. Before they got married, May was pregnant. She got birth to their son, Francis Capone, a couple of weeks prior to their marriage ceremony. A theory said that May was not the biological mother of Francis and that his biological mother lost her life during delivery, but this was never anything more than a rumor. Not a lot is known about May Capone. She was a private woman before her marriage, and she remained very private after Capone's death. Her middle years remain a mystery for the most part. There are very few credible sources that can describe what her life was like married Soal. One thing that was learned was that she definitely was a post-over. A report from a Chicago magazine see that May had not even married long before she finally got sick of Al's cheating apparently. She bleached her hair the same color as Al made all his mysteries though. As such, she quietly embarrassed Al in front of his family. When Al Capone was finally arrested in 1921, May Capone remained a loyal wife despite everything. He served his time at the U.S. Penitentiary in Atlanta and was then moved to Alcatraz. She was moved to Alcatraz, then led to him quickly becoming one of the most infamous inmates of one of the most notorious prison. After 7 years behind bars, Al was released in 1939, and when he returned home, May took care of Al as he needed for a lot of care. His syphilis had now spread to his brain, causing significant damage and reducing him to the level of a child. Al never returned to the mafia life, and May Capone took care of him in every way possible. She was always there for him despite her history. She even shielded him from onlookers until he died in 1947 after suffering a stroke, according to the Miami Herald. After Al Capone's death, his wife sold their mansion and moved away. Her son Francis, born in 1918, was partially deaf due to having constructed by the syphilis of his birth. He attended St. Patrick High School in Miami and later went to the University of Miami. Francis Capone married twice during his mother's life, and in 1966 he changed his life name to Brown. The stigma that came with the Capone name haunted him throughout his entire life. However, May Capone did Saint Trumaine until her end. She kept everything about her husband strictly private. And according to New York Post, May Capone burned all her diaries and love letters. Al sent her from prison so that no one could read them after her death. May was a strong, powerful woman living in the shadow of a strong, powerful, and infamous man. However, May was a loving mother and a grandmother. She died at the age of 89 in 1986 on April 16. She was at a nursing home in Hollywood, Florida, where her body was buried as well. So, ganun po. Being a private woman, May kept much to herself. Is not wonder then that not much information is available on May's net worth. It is widely known fact that Al Capone was one of the richest gangsters of his time. He made a sizable sum of money during the Prohibition era. With tax evasion, the primary source of his income was gambling, illegal selling of alcohol, and quite a few other illegal activities. Currently, we know that his net worth was estimated to today as value as $1.3 billion. So napakalaki pa rin. Since May and her son Francis were the inheritors of the fortune that Al Capone left, it is likely that this May Capone's net worth when she died, as Al Capone went to prison for tax evasion. Much of his property was seized during his life. So wala din po nangyari sa kanyang kayaman. Gaano man tayo kayaman, iiwan natin gaano man kalaki ang ating karangyaan sa ating pamumuhay dito sa daigdig. Everything will perish because we can't bring anything at all. All we can bring is just a small square foot of land where we are going to be buried. So, huwag po natin masyadong mahalaga ang kayamanan kasi tingnan mo nga itong Al Capone. Napakarami niyang mansion. He had a lot of mansion. He owned a lot of some of big monies, big wealth. So, when he died, nothing was left behind because of his soul. As far as I know, it was seized by the government. At dito po siya nagtatapos ang kanyang life being a gangster, sikat na gangster in America, in Chicago. So yun po ang naging buhay ni Al Capone. Walang nangyari dito sa kanyang mga mansion, kanya ding naiwan. At kung meron man na itago ang kanyang mga naging anak ay sa kanyang si si May. So kanila na lang yun dahil masyadong malihim ang kanyang naging asawa. Ayaw na pinag-uusapan. Sinunod na lahat ang diary para walang makabasa nito. Masyado siya very private na tao. So ayun po ang nangyari. At itong kanyang mansion, as I know, it was under renovation dahil nabili po ito ng $15+ million. And this is his wife, May Capone. A beautiful woman. There he is. And this is their wedding day with Al Capone. Wedding ceremony of May and Al Capone. And this is all the mansions of Al Capone. So many mansions. He had a lot of mini mansions. He can't bring anything of it under his grave. However, how big your mansions are, how many your mansions are, you can bring anything. You can make it.
DJ Jonel sa Gyno.
You will return nothing. Nothing at all can bring anything. This is a final moment before he died. Because he had brain, he had syphilis, and his brain was rotted with syphilis. And this is the picture when he was arrested because of taxation and criminal charges. And this is when he was at the Alcatraz prison where he served 11 years. Alcatraz. And this is his last day before he died because of syphilis and cardiac arrest. So that's the story of Al Capone. Again, subscribe, like, and share. Thank you for watching. Till next time. And this is the end of Al Capone's story. And this is his graveyard. Ito ang kanyang naging huling hantungan, mga kaibigan. All the Capone family was buried in this place.
DJ Jonel sa Gyno Remix.
Napakalaki ng kanilang arko ng Capone. Pero dito lang sa bumagsak sa ilalim ng lupa, sa kabila ng kanyang karangyaan na pamumuhay, kanyang maraming kayamanan, maraming mansyon, kanyang kinabagsakan, ilang square meter lang po na lupain kung saan siya ay inilibing under 6 feet. So this is Al Capone's final resting place. He was born 1899 and died 1947. So that's the end of his story. Rest in peace, Al Capone, even though you are a gangster. Bye bye.